yours is a peace that passes all understanding. Yours is a peace that this world does not. Lord, we want a piece of that. Speak to what you serve. So we're taking a little break from our other series over the summer holiday, the school summer holiday, and we've got a string of Proverbs. And the idea is each one stands on its own, so because everybody's not coming and going, we've got two families on holiday now, and we're all going to, it's going to be all over the place for those 2 weeks. So we're going to start with this one, Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. And it says this: above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Jesus said to his Jewish hearers, you worry about what you eat. It doesn't matter what you eat. That's one or two of us perhaps would think about that. Doesn't matter what you eat, Jesus said. What matters is what you put into your mind. What your mind thinks of it. Because what you put in your mind, garbage in, garbage out. That's true, isn't it? And in these days, some is shouting. We need to guard our heart. We do need to guard our heart. We need to guard our mind. I was listening to a song which I plan on introducing a week this time, which is a rather lovely song about mental health. Not many Christian songs about mental health, are there? But there is this one. And there's a passage that talks about mental health. Elijah, we read, was afraid and ran for his life. And when he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there while he himself went on a day's journey into the wilderness. And he came to a broom bush, sat down under it and prayed that he might die. I've had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. And then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. And he looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. And he ate, and he drank, and he lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time, and he touched him and said, get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank, and strengthened by that food, he travelled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. In the next chapter, his adventure began. But look, Elijah was depressed. He wanted to give up, didn't he? He said, it's all too much. I can't cope anymore. Maybe you felt like that. Maybe you feel like it right now. It's all too much. It's all too much. And look who was depressed. It was Elijah. What had just happened? He had a huge triumph on Mount Carmel. He confronted the prophets of Baal. He put a sacrifice on the altar, told them to soak it with seawater, and prayed that God would light a fire. And the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the lot, and the people went, wow! And there was no more Baal worship after that. You would think after a triumph like that Elijah would be on cloud nine, wouldn't you? Actually, the opposite. Jezebel, the queen, who wasn't best pleased that all her prophets of Baal had been sorted out, tried to kill Elijah. And in that moment of reaction from the high of that triumph, Elijah just ran away and gave him the decision. human nature, isn't it? We have our highs and we have our lows. And sometimes after the best of times, there is a reaction, emotional exhaustion, weakness, mental vulnerability. What happened? He went came to the broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed he might die. I've had enough, Lord, he said, take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. Now look how God responds. Does he tell him to buck his ideas up? No. Does he give him some mental counselling? No. No, God doesn't. God's response is food and rest. Now that's practical, isn't it? God's always practical. Food and rest is what Elijah needed then and there. And we need to listen to this. One of my big heroes is John Wesley. I looked a virtual tour once of his church and house where he did the schools for years. And if you haven't visited Wesley's house in London, it's really worth a visit. There's this church, it's the second oldest Methodist church in the country, the oldest in Bristol. And next to it is the house where he used to live. And it's like a museum full of his furniture. You can visit it today. And in his bedroom, there's this praying stool where John Wesley would have his quiet time. Believe you me, my quiet time pales compared to John Wesley's quiet time. This was serious stuff, you know. But he notes in his journal that when he was not well, he struggled to pray. And that kind of surprised me. Well, I'm not well, I might have 2 hours quiet time. He struggled. And that is because our physical health is linked to our mental health. And you can't disconnect the two. And until we get our head around this, you know, it's linked. I went away on holiday a minute. My friends, we need holidays. This is part of God's plan. The Bible's full of holidays, of Sabbath rest. Sunday meant to be a day of rest, is it? And if it's not Sunday, when is your day of rest? Rest of the week, yeah? Not Sunday for me. What am I? So our physical health and our mental health is linked. And God knows that. And sometimes if we won't plan our lives properly and take that rest, He will force us to. And He's done that for us a few times. One time we were working for a church up in Peru, at least we'd gone to work for a church, and it really didn't work out, and the whole thing fell apart, and we just had to walk away. And I carved out a third of my diary. I'm an evangelist, you know, so a third of my diary was just set aside to support the work of the church, and suddenly a third of my diary was empty. And there we were, suffering through away from all our circle of friends, and we got down in this end of the woods. And what did we do? I'll tell you what we did with that third of an empty diary. We went swimming, we did things with the kids, we chilled. It was wonderful. Because after a difficult time, we needed to rest and eat. Enjoy our life. To get the headspace from it. So think about it. Rest matters. You will happen to week, or you will happen to year. This is a God thing. Because when we rest, when we stop, when we take time out, I don't know about you, there's times when God speaks to me the most. And we need encouragement. That's the third thing that God does for Elijah. Food, rest, encouragement. 3 things. After the earthquake came a fire, and the Lord wasn't in the fire. After the fire came a gentle whisper, and Elijah heard it. And he pulled his coat over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. And God spoke to Elijah in that gentle I gave him words of encouragement. Come on, Elijah, it's not all finished. There's good things coming. There's other people going to take the load. It doesn't all rest on you. Come on. Good things are coming. Words of encouragement. Don't we need words of encouragement? Come on. We all do. The trouble is, especially as you get older, you can get a bit like Victor Mann, you know. I don't believe it, you know, grumpy old man. It comes with a territory, I think. You know, you get grumpy as you get older. It's a danger, you know. And we all turn into Victor Meldrew. That is not an encouraging person to live with, is it? Who wants to be married to Victor Meldrew? I could, no, I shan't share episodes. But when young disciple John Mark let Paul and Barnabas down while they were out on the missionary journey, and he left them in the lurch, and he suddenly went home, got flaky, if you like. Paul was all for writing what, wasn't he? I'm not taking John Mark with me anymore. He let us down last time. I'm not going to trust him again. And Barnabas said, no, give the lad a chance. Come on. He's only young. Give the lad a chance. Eh? And the name Barnabas means son of encouragement. And that was what Barnabas was encouragement. And so in the end, Paul said, and went off one way with Silas, and Barnabas with John Mark and went that direction. And it worked out brilliantly. And Barnabas encouraged John Mark, and it worked out the second time. And later on, Paul was writing and said, oh, and can you bring John Mark with you? He's really helpful. So clearly Paul changed his mind, didn't he? All John Mark needed was a bit of encouragement. Don't we all? Don't we all? A bit of encouragement and a second chance. Criticism comes so easily. And the trouble is, our society, especially our British society, is full of criticism right now. It's poisonous, isn't it? It's utterly poisonous. You share it with love, by the way. You share it with love. This is why you have a dog. A dog is encouragement on four legs. When I walk in my door, right, I've got two dogs, and they're full of joy just because I walked in the door. What else gives you that? Come on. What else gives you that? They are excited just because you're there. Dogs are encouragement on four legs. We have two of them. We need encouragement. Encouragement. Criticism. Every prime minister in our society is a complete idiot, isn't it? Doesn't matter how nice a guy, how full of integrity, how they're doing their best. It doesn't matter what their political flavour. It doesn't matter. The media just rounds on them, doesn't it? And full of criticism. And the good thing is that each and every one of them do. Trust, I can't think of anything there. Let's park that one. But the others, each one did something good. Seriously. And in all honesty, most of them are pretty decent people who we probably like to have for lunch, you know. Seriously. There was a thing on my feed yesterday that said, the new guy, she said, just give him a break. It wasn't a political thing, just like, give him a break. But, you know, give him a chance. Our local MP, I'm delighted with. I will probably never vote for him, don't tell him what I said that. But I like the guy. He's a decent guy, he's doing his best for our local area. Give him a break, you know? And we need to give each other a break. And we need to give ourselves a break too. was often looked too hard on ourselves. God cuts us some slack. God forgives. We need to forgive ourselves. I think part of the problem is the media itself. And especially if you've got one of these things, the thing never stops, does it? I seriously wonder about this thing and how much time we spend on it. And whether the off button shouldn't be more used than it is. I'm talking to myself. For instance, our news media only reports bad news. That is sick. It only reports bad news. I used to spend my time in all our local schools. And I need to tell you that most of our local schools are wonderful places to be. Well run, with happy teachers and happy children. Let's be a lot happier if there wasn't an Ofsted. There's more harm than good, but there we are, we'll park that one. Be a lot happier too if National Grid made a little bit of sense. Maybe it doesn't currently, but there we will park that one too. I'm starting to sound like Victor, aren't I? But schools are happy places. Who reports that? Somerset School, wonderful place to be. Hey? Who reports that? It tells you that, don't they? They only report the bad news. There's a war here, there's a fire there, there's, the people were killed by this person here and a murder happened there. Nobody tells you the bad news. Nobody does. And so we end up with this distorted view of the world. It's all going to hell in a handcuff. And it's not, my friends. God's in control. He's got a plan. In this country, God is stirring people. People just show up to church here. Seriously. Wow. And the folk that come on Monday, most of them are not church goers. And they come more and more and more. Our Hope Stream evening was something special. God's a work. He's got a plan. It's not all going to have in a handcuff. And taking his even got a plan about global warming. I don't know what it is yet, but I tell you, he's got it. God is almighty. He who created the universe in a split second and sustains it for 5 times. This is small stuff, though. He's got it. And he is at work in so many situations. There are Christians who don't. There are Christians who pray together. I interviewed one of them, we interviewed one of them a little while back, and the Conservatives, the Labour, and the Dem and all the rest of the Christians meet together, all political flavours, and pray together and love each other in our Houses of Parliament. I said to us, they were on telly at one time, and they, talking about some issue, and there was him, and there was this Conservative Christian friend, and they were supposed to have an argument and they didn't argue. And the interviewer said, well, right, I'm on YouTube back again, you didn't argue. No, of course they weren't kind of arguing, they were trying to find a solution together. Wow. God is at work. God's at work through all kinds of charity. God is at work in the food banks, mostly run by the church. God is at work in the homeless centres. In Taunton, there's a homeless centre that's run by the local churches. Right on our doorstep, here, God is working in so many ways, even when we can't see it. He is working. So scrap your disjointed, distorted, joyless view of our world and embrace God's view, which isn't reported in the media or on the feed, unless you go looking for it. And then, no one wants to hear a sermon preached by a Peter, do they? Who wants to hear a sermon preached by Peter? I did once. I was at a Christian conference once, and the speaker suddenly thunders. It was a little while ago when celebrations were, the thing there. And so, whoa, we got to celebrate, like this. And I thought, I would have jumped to my feet and interrupted him. I was a young man then, I didn't. So we escaped that. But, what we got to celebrate? It was a sermon by Eel. Nobody does. And Eel does not have a place in any church. They think they're a preacher, they are something. Eel doesn't have a place in church leadership either. There are churches led by Eels. They have something in common. They are all dying. Nobody wants a church led by. We need to look up. God is powerfully working everywhere. There are growing churches everywhere. The good news is being powerfully proclaimed everywhere. I mean, Counties evangelists. Counties is thriving. We've got so many new evangelists that are doing so many wonderful and amazing things, impacting this country in so many ways. There's a network of, when we started 300 church plants, I don't know how many there are now. That's a lot, isn't it, of new churches. We need encouragement. We need encouragement. I once heard an upsetting statistic of the number of church leaders that crash and burn. It's a huge proportion. That's a lot, isn't it? And why do church leaders crash and burn? And that could be encouragement, I would suggest. Now, don't get me wrong, if I'm doing something stupid, I need you to tell me. I may not want to hear it, but I need to hear it, don't I? Yeah? And if you live with me any length of time, you sooner or later I'm going to do something stupid. Yeah? Okay. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But they get it right, tell me, it's okay. But having said that, everybody listens to Bibles. Every church needs Bibles, and not just one. The Bible. And then there's the input. The input. I will not look with approval on anything that is vile, the psalmist said. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Garbage in, garbage out. What is our minds? We're going to guard our heart. We've got to guard our heart. Now, an algorithm on your computer or your phone, it looks at what you are looking at, says, oh, they like reading Christian books. I'll tell them about more Christian books. Oh, they like listening to J. John. Here's another thing from J. John. Yeah? So you like that Alpha Course guy, and then there's some more of him. If you go on. Yeah, have a bit more with you. The algorithm can be brilliant. You like Christian music? Have you heard this new song? And it will be brilliant. But tell you what, if you look at depressing stuff and bad stuff, it will be more of that. Can't stop looking at the music. Let's feed our heart and mind. Not a whack choice. There are so many posting on social media, but good sources, reliable, preferably good. Yeah? The things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, Jesus says. And it's those things which are violent. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defile a person. We are what we eat, they say. Well, that's certainly true in our minds. What we fill our mind with is what shapes our thinking. So let us choose and decide. Let us choose. Let's choose good things in our prayers. Let's choose good things that our heart and mind. Let us choose good things for our health. If we need a diet, take a diet. If we need a bit more exercise, take a bit more exercise. If we need a holiday, take one. Yeah? And if you're not taking a proper day of rest during the time of your ceremony, then when are you going to start? Jesus, even when he was frantically busy, and the crowds were coming to his door trying to hijack his death, went off first thing in the morning and required hence to be alone. When did he do that? Lord, we pray now that the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will fill our hearts and our minds. Lord, the dark thoughts we let go, the lies of the evil one we look upon the face of Jesus with love. His arms are open wide. He accepts us unconditionally. His forgiveness is free